What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of Pistons Daily, where you can find daily content covering all things Detroit Pistons 365 days a year. My name is Kyle Garrison. I'm your host. You can find me over on Twitter at Kyle Garrison2, where I talk all things Detroit sports. So head over there, give me comments, questions, concerns, episode ideas. I'd love to hear from all you guys. Also, shout out to everyone who tunes in every single day. The channel is growing at an unbelievable rate, and it's all thanks to you guys. So once again, I really appreciate it. But with that being said, let's jump right into today's video. So the first thing that I did want to touch on is Ron Holland did not play in Game 4 of Summer League, but he did have an interview with the broadcast booth during the game, and I just wanted to touch on some of the things that he said. Basically, the first thing that was brought up was his availability. The best ability is availability for any coach. And last year, Ron Holland played 81 games. He showed the ability to stay on the floor, and I think that's really big for a young guy. He talked about discussing with Cade Cunningham and Tobias Harris and some of the veterans how to stay on the floor, how to properly train, and just be able to take care of your body so you can play the maximum amount of games in a season. And I think a lot of young players, they're trying to perfect their game, and they're working really hard, but they're putting a ton of stress on their body, and that wear and tear eventually catches up to them, and it kind of affects their longevity in the league year to year. But I don't think that's going to affect Ron Holland, because he talked about it. Even if he's in the gym for 30 minutes or he's in the gym for an hour and 30 minutes, he's going to go hard, but he's going to take care of his body. He's going to continue to work on his craft, but also he's going to work on being able to stay in the game and stay active for this team where you absolutely need him. He's going to be a key piece in this rotation, so I'm glad he recognizes that. And then I'm also glad he recognizes his role on this team. They asked him about kind of what his role is coming into this year in his second year, and he just basically said he's going to be a guy that comes off the bench. He's going to provide energy. He's going to give it his all every single time he steps on the floor. He's going to try and affect winning every way he can, and that's by playing good defense, running the floor hard, being a complementary piece to Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey and some of these excellent guards that the Pistons have. And then also, he said that he's going to knock down shots, but when it's his turn to knock down shots. So he's not saying, all I've been working on this offseason is shot creation, getting to the bucket, and going and getting mine. He's talking about how, yeah, he's working on his shot, and he's working on getting buckets, but it's going to come with time, and he's not going to force it. He's going to stay within the flow and the pace of the offense, and he's not going to affect what's going on the floor negatively, but rather just give this team another scoring option and a downhill attacker, and potentially someone who can space the floor as well around Cade Cunningham with his improved three-point shot. I think there's going to be some time where he's going to have to work on that, and that's going to have to be more consistent part of his game. But right now, with where he's at in his development, he recognizes what he needs to do to affect winning, and I think that's just really big going into this year. And then I also just wanted to touch on the fact that he's still working on different things, but he's understanding the importance. And a lot of young players, when they come in, they don't really understand the importance of being a role player and playing your role, especially early on in your career. He was a top 5 pick. He could have a huge ego and want to come in and just start shot chucking and think, I was a top 5 pick. I deserve minutes. I deserve touches. Instead of, what he deserves, it's rather what he can provide. And I think that's really big for him, just for his development, because he's going to get more minutes that way. And he's going to be able to come in and not have too much pressure on his shoulders to go and be a shot creator, but rather just somebody that plays within the flow of the offense, like I mentioned, and just provides you value in multiple areas of the floor, not just scoring. So I'm glad that Ron Holland recognizes that. I know it's coach speak, and I'm sure that his, PR directors are telling him that's what he should say, but he could very well go in another direction and go off on a tangent about how he wants to become this elite shot creator. But instead, he talks about things that the fans want to hear, and that I'm sure he actually believes in himself, because he knows the potential of this team, and he knows that they're going to put him in the right spots to succeed. He just has to trust the process. But moving on, I wanted to touch on the Summer League game as a whole. Obviously, like I said, Ron Holland didn't play, but I think there was a ton of positives throughout the game. Right away, I think Chaz Lanier struggled. 2 of 10 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3. 2 rebounds. He did have 4 assists, which I really like. 2 steals, which I've talked about how we want to see him improve on the defensive end, and I thought he was really solid in the point of attack today. Had active hands, got his hands in some passing lanes, and eventually got some steals. So I like to see that. Only 5 points, but 1 turnover. And, the 5 points, that's I think that's a little bit deceiving. He had some good looks, and he was finding himself open. He was moving well off ball. But yeah, that 1 of 6 from three, that's his worst shooting total so far in Summer League in Game 4. So that's going to have to improve. Clearly, there's some inefficiencies right now, and the defense is closing out quick, so he's having to get his shot up a lot faster than I think he's used to, especially when he was in college. And I think with summer league too, a lot of these young players kind of get caught up in the speed of the game, and they get caught up in the moment. They're in Las Vegas; it's a big week to showcase your skills, and so I think that he's probably just got a little jitters, but that's no excuse for him. I'm not trying to make excuses. He has to be better with his shot if he wants to be a consistent piece of this rotation in the future. But right now, he doesn't look like a guy that could come in and play bench minutes. He looks like a guy that should be in the G League to work on his craft, which isn't necessarily a bad thing whatsoever. He's a second round pick. It's kind of expected that he would start off in the G League, and I think that's kind of where he's headed right now. I didn't love his performance today, but I think he did some things, like I said, defensively and with the ball in his hands as a passer, kind of putting the ball on the deck more than I expected him to. I think that was very solid. So there's some good, there's some bad. We'll have to kind of reevaluate here in Game 5 of Summer League if he looks any better. But somebody that did look a lot better was Bobby Klintman. I'm going to talk about him in a whole segment. I just wanted to touch on him. I'm very intrigued by his game, and I'm sorry if you guys are getting sick of hearing the Bobby Klintman talk, but this time it's going to be positive, and I thought he played really well. But some other players that I did want to touch on, just some unsung heroes, especially so far in the Summer League. Zakai Ziegler, I know we've got some Tennessee fans that like to listen, and Zakai Ziegler is probably one of their most favorite players of all time. He gave his heart and soul to that Tennessee team, played there for 5 years, was unbelievable throughout multiple tournaments, throughout multiple SEC seasons, and it was just a big part of that program in general. So I like to see him. He was excellent. He had that buzzer beater layup at the end of the first quarter, which was really cool. He's listed at 5'9". The broadcast was talking about it, and I absolutely love the heart and soul he brings. He also had a couple of great lobs to Garrison Brooks, who was able to finish. Garrison Brooks had like 4 dunks in the game, just an unbelievable game overall for Brooks. In 20 minutes, he was 5 of 7 from the field, 9 rebounds, 10 points, and what was most impressive to me was the 5 assists. I mean, he's a guy that's played overseas for the past couple of years after leaving North Carolina. And man, it is evident. He understands the game. He's got a very high basketball IQ. Was just unbelievable today in really his first significant minutes so far in the Summer League. And he had 5 offensive rebounds, 4 defensive, was all over the boards, was catching lobs, dunking over. He dunked over Kasparis Jakusonis. He dunked over Vlad Golden one time. It was just a very impressive performance overall in limited minutes. And I think with Zakai Ziegler on the floor, that helps him out a lot. A quicker guard that can get downhill, draw the defense, and he was able to catch some lobs and some dump off passes he was able to finish. So shout out to Garrison Brooks. I mean, my name is Kyle Garrison, so I love a guy named Garrison. But at the end of the day, regardless, he was really, really impressive. And so let me know you guys' thoughts. I know these guys are most obviously going to be G League players, but it's still exciting and it's still intriguing to look at different players the Pistons do bring in. It speaks a lot to their evaluation process and how they're able to scout. And I think Garrison Brooks, a guy who is kind of a diamond in the rough that is going to be a really significant piece of this G League team of the Motor City Cruise this year. Like I mentioned, just underrated passer overall for Garrison Brooks. And then a person that's not underrated, who had the most assists on the team, was Dennis Jenkins, who, again, just unbelievable. Not a crazy efficient shooting night, 3 of 11 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, but 10 assists. And the biggest thing, he had 3 turnovers, and I mean, that's insane. For a guy who had the ball in his hand for the entire game, it seemed like. 10 assists, 16 points, had that ball on a string in the Summer League, just with how sporadic and how, cattywampus the games are. I cannot believe I just used cattywampus. I apologize for that. But just how, insane these games are and how sloppy the play is. It's really impressive to not turn the ball over. And he just really didn't today. There was a couple times where he was a little loose, trying to fit in tight passes and tight windows. But other than that, 10 assists. He was making passes off the inbound. He was making passes off of lobs. He was making passes on the fast break, out of the pick and roll. It really seemed like there was nothing he could do with the ball in his hands today. And I just think that's really impressive from a guy who spent most of his time in the G League last year and is really just trying to fight for a roster spot. So shout out to Dennis Jenkins. He's been unbelievable in the summer league and continued that today. Not from a scoring perspective as much, but definitely with his facilitating, I was very impressed. So good work there from everybody. The Pistons did win. I didn't even mention this, 108-88. Just dominated Miami, who didn't have Pelle Larsson or Khalil Ware, so that had probably something to do with that. But the Pistons didn't have Ron Holland, so it's a give and take there. And the Pistons ended up just playing a very solid game overall, and they're gonna get one more game. I don't think they're gonna be in the championship, unfortunately, but they'll get one more game, and we'll evaluate that. But moving on, someone specific that I wanted to touch on in length was Bobby Klintman. I think that I was pretty hard on him the past 3 games for good reason. He did not play well, and he didn't really show us that he could be a potential backup power forward for this team going forward. And that's really what the Pistons fans and the Pistons community was looking for going into Summer League was, can Bobby Klintman improve his game, improve his efficiency from year to year, and become a guy that plays minutes off the bench for this team this year, as early as this year. And I think the answer through 3 games was no. But now, it's a little bit more reassuring. I still think we have a lot of questions to answer about Bobby's game, but this was by far and away his best game. 7 of 11 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3, 3 of 4 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 1 block, just 3 turnovers, which is an improvement from the past couple of games. And then he had 20 points on a plus 15 plus minus. So clearly he was benefited from kind of playing that small forward that Ron Holland was occupying the past 3 games. And he came in and he played excellently. They had a really interesting lineup. Tolu Smith, who I think 6'11", Dawson Garcia, who's 6'11", and then Bobby Klintman playing the 3 at 6'9". So he was very comfortable with the ball in his hands. He also was very comfortable off the catch and shoot. He had a couple times where he was relocating off ball, finding an open spot. It seemed like it was more of a line drive 3-point shot today, more of a line drive approach. And it was way more effective, and it looked way more confident than it has the past 3 games. He was knocking them down, no hesitation from the top of the key. He missed a couple from the corner, but we've seen him make a couple from the corner this year or this summer league. So it was nice to see his consistency from the top of the key and around those wing areas, with playing the 3 position a little bit more today. So I love that he was knocked down off relocation. That's going to be huge for him. That's kind of his role in this league, is if he's going to be a power forward / small forward at 6'9", he's got to be able to spin the rock, and he also has to be able to defend, which he did today. Like I mentioned, 2 steals, 1 block, had a really nice block at the rim. So I just think there was a lot of things today that he was able to slow the game down with, and to kind of tap into different areas of his game that we really haven't seen. And one area I loved was the off-ball screens that he was getting. They were running specific plays drawn up for him to catch the ball at the top of the key and operate with different options around him, and he looked much more comfortable. He was getting downhill. He was utilizing his strength, which I was very, very adamant about the past couple of days. He needs to work on getting to the rim with conviction, and there was a couple times today where he would discard a defender and was able to get to the rim and finish, which was very nice to see. And then, the off-ball screens were great for him. And then also the on-ball screens where he was the main ball handler. I've talked about that, how I wanted to see, and that was way more consistent today. There was a couple times where he was able to get downhill. He didn't really have an option to score or hit the roll man, and was able to kick it out to the 3-point line, hit Dennis Jenkins for a 3 one time on one of those drives. So giving him options, spacing the floor around him, and allowing him to attack from the top of the key, giving him some options. He can go right, he can go left, he can try and score, he can also try and facilitate, and he has options all around him, either in the corner, the roll man, having someone in dunker spot. Giving him those options for passes is huge for his development, and I think today he kind of took a step forward that we really, really needed to see, just for some encouragement going forward. But just an unbelievable game for Bobby. I think he probably looked like the best player, besides maybe Dennis Jenkins, on the floor today for the Pistons. So I thought he looked really, really solid. Obviously, there's going to be some questions about whether or not that can stay consistent and if he can bring that to the NBA level. But just the fact that we're seeing it is reassuring, and the fact that the coaching staff and everyone around him wants to see him succeed and wants to put him in the best positions to succeed is very encouraging as well. So I like to see that, and shout out Bobby Klintman for just a very good bounce back game overall. I'm excited to see what he can do in the last game of Summer League, and hopefully we kind of see that performance replicate itself once again, and we have some reassurance that he still could be an NBA player in the future if he's able to continue to refine those parts of his game. And then before we wrap things up, I just wanted to touch on a comment I got, a question from one of our listeners. It's Nizzy Noy D. Thanks for the comment. He said, thoughts on who we may want to look at as a potential trade deadline acquisition. I know you may not know who is available, but any dream scenario, Siakam type move you would like to see happen. And then he went on to say, I believe 3 of our starting 5 will be here all season, Cade, Asar, and Duren, along with Holland and Stu. Would love to keep Ivy and Harris long term, but depending on the player and how well Ivy plays, they may be the odd starters out. Everyone else in picks are on the table. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that wholeheartedly. I think Jaden Ivey is pretty safe on this team going forward, unless the Pistons want to make a huge move at the deadline, which I don't see being the case. I think Tobias Harris with his contract, and then Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson with their mid-sized contracts are probably the most likely to be moved if the Pistons were to make a big acquisition where they have to bring on a solid-sized contract. So if the Pistons do have a $14.3 million trade exception, and that is at their disposal, they can use that all the way up till next year in July. So that could be an option for them at the deadline if they do want to package a Tobias Harris and the trade exception. That opens up $42 million because it's, like I said, $14.3 million trade exception. So Tobias Harris with around $26, $27 million, you add that $14 million, you're looking at around $40 to $42 million that you're able to go and get somebody. And somebody that kind of fits that I think the Pistons would be interested in potentially. Don't come at me in the comments because we've heard this name before. I've heard people don't like it. They like it. I'm just offering you the information, let you guys make your own opinions. But Lauri Markkanen, I think, is the name that would potentially make sense. He's a floor spacing power forward that I think would be great alongside of Asar Thompson and Jalen Duren. He's an elite three-point shooter. He can create his own shot. He can facilitate, defend. He's a very solid overall player, and I think his stock is about as low as it's ever been right now, especially with coming off of a very down year in Utah where he didn't play nearly the amount of games we thought he might. And he doesn't really fit the Utah Jazz timeline. They're going very, very young now. They got rid of John Collins. They got rid of Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson. So they're going in a completely different direction right now. And I'm sure they're shopping Lauri Markkanen as much as they can. So I think that could be an option. I'm really bad at gauging players' trade values on the market, so I don't even want to get into what it might cost. But I think, if you add Tobias Harris in that trade exception, and then whatever else they might ask, if they ask for Jaden Ivey, obviously I would say no. 10 out of 10 times. I don't know about you guys. Let me know in the comments if you guys think you would be okay with trading for Lauri Markkanen and giving up Jaden Ivey. Personally, I don't think that's a good idea whatsoever. I think Jaden Ivey's got a very high ceiling that we haven't seen yet, and I want to see him still next to Cade Cunningham for a full year. I think giving up on him at the deadline would be a mistake. But you could also offer picks, some young players like a Marcus Sasser. Don't want to give up Ron Holland for him. But if the Jazz come knocking and they're asking for a big haul, I would say don't do it. I don't think it's worth it. But if he's available and he's cheaper than you might have expected, I'd say, throw a Tobias Harris, Marcus Sasser, and a couple of second-round picks, or maybe a first-round pick as well. Who knows? I think that Lauri's a solid talent. It's just up in the air of whether he can continue to be what he was a couple of years ago. But I'm way past time, so I apologize for the lengthy video. There's a lot of stuff I wanted to touch on. But shout out to Nizzy Noy D for the question. I think it's a really interesting to look at, especially with the Pistons having a trade exception and a little bit more of an incentive to add at the deadline. So we'll see how that plays out. And as the year goes on, different areas of the game that I could see the Pistons needing some help, I'll touch on those, and we'll do some more evaluation ahead of the deadline, whether or not I think the Pistons will use that trade exception. So again, just want to reiterate, I don't think Lauri Markkanen is going to be traded to us. I don't know. He may be, it's all speculation at this point. There really is no weight behind it. So I just wanted to just give a interesting topic or something that could be a potential move for the Pistons. But let me know if you guys think that Lauri Markkanen would be a good add for this team going forward, or if you'd like to see them kind of stay put and continue to work with their young core. I think it's an interesting scenario, especially with that trade exception. So let me know what you guys think. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Again, let me know in the comments or over on Twitter your thoughts on Bobby Klintman's best summer league performance so far, and if your confidence in him is restored or if you still need to see more consistency. I personally like what I saw, but I still need to see more proof of product if he's going to be considered for the 15-man roster, let alone a backup position. So let me know your guys' thoughts on Bobby Klintman's game. Also, just let me know your thoughts on Game 4 of Summer League as a whole and who impressed, who you'd like to see improve. And also give me your thoughts on the trade deadline predictions that I gave you. If the Pistons were to use their trade exception at the deadline, what would that look like, and what would you like to see the Pistons target? As always, like, subscribe, comment, turn on post notifications, and follow me on Twitter at Kyle Garrison 2. Also, head over to Spotify, leave a review, leave a follow if you can. Once again, thank you all so much for tuning in every single day. I apologize for the lengthy episode, but with that being said, that is going to do it here for episode 25 of Pistons Daily, and I will catch you all next time.